Hi, Erin Jorek here, and I'm going to answer some of your yoga-related questions. First two questions come from Dan. Dan's got really good questions. His first question is something that I, as a teacher and as a student, I regularly struggle with a bit. Tempo of a class, so the cadence of a class. This is in regards to primarily a vinyasa flow class. But Dan's question was in regards to keeping up with the tempo of class. Dan feels like he moves a little slower than what's typically directed in class, the tempo of the breath. I'm right there with you, Dan. Most vinyasa flow classes, I am moving way slower than everybody else in the room. I like to take longer breaths. I like to take my time in moving through the postures. And I know that's not for everybody. There's a few ways to deal with this. When I take a public vinyasa flow class, I'm often eliminating certain postures so that I'm still kind of staying with the flow of class. Chaturanga is one that, well, A, I will always voluntarily skip, but B, it's an easy one to take out, and so I kind of take out, the exhale of Chaturanga, the inhale of up dog, and I'm meeting with everybody in downward facing dog on the exhale. So that's one way of doing it, kind of like, eliminating some of the postures so that you're kind of staying on the same page as everybody else. But also, you don't have to do that. My teacher constantly says, teaching yoga, it's not like teaching synchronized swimming. You don't have to be with everybody. And I know as a teacher, it can be a little tricky when you have everybody kind of moving at different tempos, but ultimately it's a yoga practice. And it's important that you are being with your breath, however long or short your breath is. And so that can be a tricky thing when you're taking a public class. You're just kind of at the mercy of what the teacher's guiding and what else is happening in the room. And then last, my suggestion would be, typically a vinyasa class, you're moving, you're flowing. So for me, I tend to kind of step away from the vinyasa classes, and I might lean into more hatha yoga classes or a slow flow class. And I know the title of classes can be really ambiguous, and you never really know what you're going to get if you've never taken the class before. But maybe experiment, try different classes, different formats, and you might find a style that you're able to, breathe fully and really be present with the tempo of your breath. I hope that was helpful. Second question from Dan is in regards to the feet. I love talking about the feet. I could talk forever and ever and ever about the feet, but specifically how the feet kind of correspond to the rest of your body, the pelvis in particular. There's a lot of different ways to talk about the feet. I talk specifically about three really strong points of the foot. I have no idea how good my foot looks. It's probably not that good. But I like to talk about the base of the big toe, the base of the little toe, and the center of your heel. So you have three specific points in the foot. So those 3 points are, they're super duper solid, but also those 3 points create really specific domes of the feet. So you've got the space between like the ball mound of your foot, that's a dome. Then you have the inner arch of the foot, you've got the outer arch of the foot. So creating really solid foundation, really solid connection down into your yoga mat, down to the floor. So when you use those 3 points to stabilize yourself, the whole body kind of falls into place. The legs can activate. But you can manipulate your postures simply by focusing on different, focusing on the pressure that you put in the feet. I don't know if I'm articulating this very well. You can rock the feet, you can rock more forward, you can rock more backward. More detailed things that I like to work with in practice is like the subtle rotation of the feet. So you're really not rotating the feet. But from standing positions, if you think of turning the feet in towards each other, and I'm not actually moving the feet, but it's like you're taking the base of the big toes, and it's almost like you're rotating them a little bit inward, and that causes the thigh bones to internally rotate. And it actually causes then the pelvis, the front rim of the pelvis, to drop forward. And then you could also do the opposite. You might rotate more outward toward the base of the little toes, almost like you're rolling them a little bit outward. Again, my feet aren't actually moving. I'm just changing the energy within my feet. and that cause the thigh bones to externally rotate and potentially rotate the front rim of the pelvis upward. Right? So all of this is related to the position of the feet. Right? You might just see it in my legs. All I'm doing is just shifting the energy and the focus within my feet. Right? So there's just so much that you can do with the feet. Like you could rock forward, you could rock it backward, and all of that then translates to the position of your pelvis. So it's really a lot of just experimentation, trying different things on, different postures, just simple Tadasana, simple neutral standing position. And just kind of, you could take forever playing with, if I put my weight here, if I rotate my foot here, and you could just feel all this different stuff happening in the thighs, in the pelvis. Yeah, I could go on forever. I taught like 2 months of classes all about the feet. So, yeah, that was really ambiguous, but things you can play with the feet. Next question, it's a little more related to teaching yoga. This question came from, I think her name's Lindsay. Lindsay, I met her when I was assisting Jason Crandall at a workshop in Chicago a few years back. But Lindsay's question was something along the lines of, how do you get so good at hands-on assists? And I out loud chuckled when I read that message, because I don't think of myself as a very strong hands-on assisting teacher. I do them because I do think they're a valuable aspect of taking a class. But as the older I get and the longer I teach yoga, the more I think it's better for students to feel it out in their own body without me manipulating them and shifting them. But again, there's a lot of value to a teacher on the outside offering hands-on assist. So what Lindsay got to experience was so special, because someone else was actually guiding the class, and then I was just assisting. So I wasn't thinking about what I'm teaching. I was just in there assisting the bodies. But here's some tips on how to get really good at hands-on adjustments. Make them small. Big assists are fun. Some students really love the full big body assists. I'm not one of those students. I'm not one of those teachers. I like to make things really subtle, really small. And really that's how I teach, period. It's all subtle. It's all detailed. And so my hands-on assists are the same. I use more of my fingers. I'm not like a big, use my full arms, use my hands. It's really small stuff, just touching specific areas of the body. And also, when I am teaching or when I'm assisting someone else who's teaching, listening to the verbal cues that are being given and then having my hands-on assist match the verbal command. So maybe the command is lengthen your ribs. Just bringing some awareness to the ribs and lengthen those out. Or let the outer rim of your shoulder blade lift when the arm's overhead. Taking a hand to the outer rim of the shoulder blade and just assisting that up. So it can be, you can strengthen your hands-on assists by just matching it with what you're saying, or what the teacher who is teaching, match it with what they're saying. I think a lot of it just comes down to confidence too. If I step into a room of students that I don't really know, I'm not going to give a lot of hands-on assists because I'm kind of feeling out the environment. But when I've got a lot of students in the room that I'm familiar with, I know their bodies, I have a relationship with them, then my hands-on assists they're quite strong. Not to say I'm bad at hands-on assists, because I do think I have some skill in it. I know I have skill in it, but my approach to hands-on assists, again, it's small, it's subtle, and I have like my dozen or so of assists that I can always lean on that I know are always going to be pretty good. So practice, time, and really finding assists that work for you. I can't say this enough. For the longest time, I was learning assists. I didn't think were really valuable for me as a teacher. I think other people can do them very beautifully and very effectively, but finding really what suits you as a teacher, and I think just getting really comfortable with that. Last question, again, it's about teaching yoga. A couple weeks ago, I had a student pull me aside after class, and he just said, how do you learn all this stuff? How do you learn all these different things to teach? I think I was teaching Marichiasana A that day, and he's like, how do you learn about all these things? And I thought, well, I just know them. But it made me reflect, how do I know these things that I'm teaching? First, it comes down to, I've experienced them in classes, the various classes I've taken throughout the years. But also, I open a lot of books. if I'm looking for a little inspiration, I'm looking for, I'm teaching a twisting practice, and I want to kind of like amp up my practice, get some inspiration. I'll open up Iyengar's Light on Yoga, and I'll take a look at some of his twisting postures, and be like, oh yeah, I could take this here. And from there, it's a lot of my own exploration. So majority of my yoga practice is all a personal practice. I roll up my own mat, I do my own thing, but it's a lot of experimentation. It's not like this really lovely 90-minute practice where I'm flowing and I'm binding and I'm doing all the things. It's really me in postures, kind of like workshopping. Okay, how does this feel? How does this feel? And then based on what I feel in my body, that's what I then communicate to my students. But also, I'm constantly workshopping in my head when I'm teaching postures. What do I see in my students' bodies? Is this working? Is this landing? And I'm constantly learning on the spot on how to better develop my craft as a teacher. But I can't say it enough. If you are a yoga teacher, if you maybe down the road want to be a yoga teacher, you have to keep studying. You have to keep practicing. Or like the fire burns out. The reason I'm so passionate about this stuff is because I love that I will never know everything. I will constantly keep learning. I'll constantly keep expanding my knowledge when it comes to yoga and teaching yoga. And so, like, again, if you are a teacher, if you want to be a teacher, if you want to do this thing for a long time, please keep learning, please keep studying. And your students will appreciate it. Oh my gosh, your students will, that's why they appreciate you as a teacher, is because you keep bringing them so much knowledge, so much information. So truly the reason I know this stuff is because I keep learning this stuff. I keep taking classes. Sure, I've got a home practice, but I also do online classes, and I take classes around the Twin Cities. But like, I really take my seat as the student first, and that's priority number one, and then that just feeds into my teaching. So that's my biggest recommendation for those of you that are teachers. That's all I've got for this month. Thank you so much to those of you that sent me questions. Please keep sending me questions. You can email them to me. You can message me. You can send like comments on YouTube or via social media. I use all those platforms. But I love this, like, it kind of feels like it's a one-way conversation, but I love being able to have these yoga conversations. I love talking about this stuff. So again, thank you for checking it out.